Hello everybody, this is Al. You haven't heard from me in a while. I've I have quite a story to share with you. So I've been in Paraguay for 5.5 months. I've moved to Buenos Aires, spent 2.5 months there, and man, I got sick there. The Buenos Aires winter, which runs from June through late August, is brutal. I came there in mid to late April, and the weather was still just a little bit chilly, but it got much worse later on. In late May, it got humid but cold, just not something that we're used to experiencing in the United States. And the Argentinian winters are quite deceptive. On the one hand, they can be, well, they can appear to be mild, which they are. There is not much snow, although there was an unusual wave of a cold wave on all of Argentina. There was snow in Panama and Mar del Plata, and that's not usual. In Buenos Aires, there are very few snowflakes on the ground all around the city. And the chaos of the city, the noise, the hectic environment that the years of high inflation has brought on the country, and political chaos has created tension, and it has been palpable. If you're not used to living in Buenos Aires, you'll understand why. In the city of Buenos Aires, there are more clinical psychologists working per square kilometer than anywhere else. And you'll be in for quite a surprise if you go there without any preparation. And I prepared thoroughly. And I was still caught unaware. That was a brutal experience. And don't forget, Buenos Aires went from being one of the cheapest places to live in Latin America to one of the most expensive. I've paid $3 to $4 for a cup of coffee. If you're going out to a nice restaurant, a dinner for two could easily cost you $60, $70, or $80. Even if you go to a fairly economical place, you can pay $30 to $50 for two, sometimes even for one person. So when I first came to Buenos Aires, I went to Belgrano in the northern zone, which was a fairly safe place to be, very safe in fact. Also upscale, if not a little snooty. Yeah, I ended up paying $700 with Airbnb. That's a little much, but alright, still in the United States, it's much more expensive. So all in all, Buenos Aires, as far as the cost of living go, I'd say is about on par with some of the cheaper American cities, like say maybe Detroit, maybe a little bit cheaper than Ann Arbor. I'm from Michigan, that's my frame of reference. Possibly, I've lived in Northern Virginia, Stafford, Virginia. Cost of living, of eating out, going to the grocery store and getting around, excluding rent in Buenos Aires, are on par with medium. But what about the average American city with a population of 500,000 to 1 million? Though, of course, DC, New York, and Boston, and the West Coast, Pacific Coast will cost you much more. Well, that's something to think about. If you're a bargain hunter, Buenos Aires is not the place for you to be anymore. And if you look things up, look up the cost of living on various websites that track them, you'll find that excluding rent, Buenos Aires is about as expensive as Budapest, the capital of Hungary, but the quality of life is just not the same. Budapest is much safer, cleaner, more orderly, there is less economic inequality, and yes, Hungary has its own problems with inflation. Yet, inflation in Argentina is just beginning to come down a little bit. For example, now the rate of inflation is 1.5% per month, which would come to 18%, and that's a record low in over 5 years. So the libertarian reforms of President Javier Milei seem to be working. Yet the inflation is still high. About 38% of the country live in poverty. It used to be over 50%, and this would have been unthinkable in any European country, no matter how bad the economic situation may be. In Hungary, with 20% inflation per year, with the migrant crisis, with the authoritarian overreach of President Orban, it's still much more tame compared to Argentina. Yeah, but all in all, the cost of living in Argentina, with rent included, I would probably say in Buenos Aires, they're substantially more expensive than Belgrade, though Belgrade is cheaper, safer, much more orderly. Possibly the cost of living overall are probably somewhere between Bucharest and Budapest. So let's say it will be, you need to go to a high-end city in the Balkans or Eastern Europe to find something that's nearly as expensive. And the quality of life that you'll find in Eastern Europe, say even Romania if you want to go to Bucharest, or Sofia, Bulgaria, you're going to find much safety, much more order, and much more of the true European way of life, without the chaos, hustle, and bustle, and outright political instability that you would in Buenos Aires. And I'll bet you that a lot of other expats have traveled in Eastern Europe will confirm that, generally speaking, Eastern Europe and most of the Slavic countries are much cheaper than Buenos Aires. So I'd say skip that for now. But I still have only good things to say about Argentina. In fact, right now I am in Misiones, northeast of Argentina, much more economical in Buenos Aires. Instead of a little studio for $700, you can get a whole house or an apartment with 2 bedrooms in a very nice, safe area. And restaurants are about half the price of what you find in Buenos Aires. And yes, you can still have some of the European charms living in the northeast of Argentina. And if you really want to save money, well, cross the border, go across the bridge to Encarnacion, and there you will see that you'll find some of the cheapest prices anywhere in the world outside of Southeast Asia. So I've spent 2.5 months, and also in the south of Paraguay, Encarnacion. But Paraguay is a little bit too boring. You can only handle so much of it. That's it for now. Check out the video description. Book a free consultation whenever you'd like. 30 minutes free. I'll gladly answer any questions you may have about your travel experience, where to relocate, how to make money online, and how to get away from the political crisis that's mounting in the United States, with the Democratic Party having an all-time low popularity rating in the polls. I believe the Democrats have taken a major setback, that it's been at least 20-30 years since they've been this unpopular. Well, and the best thing they have going for them is Donald Trump, who resonates with a small minority of Americans, an intolerant and a loud minority, and yet he's not a viable option for anybody. Costs of living in the US are through the roof. AI is threatening our jobs, so if you have a way of earning a living online, or if you want to learn about it, book your free consultation and we will talk. Again, thanks so much for your attention.